Good evening. I'm Matt Sterling, President of the Friends of the Kansas City Public Library, and I want to welcome all of you this evening to the Friends Annual Meeting. Meeting again under unusual circumstances, but it's getting better. We're here in the Truman Auditorium in the Plaza Library, and exciting things to come. In addition to updating you this evening on what the Friends have been up to the past year, we also have a special treat. We've been joined by the director of the library, John Herron. We're going to have a conversation with him this evening about what the library has been up to in serving the community and serving you during this pandemic, and how you can see things changing as the library begins to open back up and welcome people in the doors. So without any further ado, I'm going to just jump over and join John and get into our conversation. So let's follow me over here.
Hi, Matt.
Hi, John. Thanks for joining us. We're excited to have you.
Happy to be here.
I kind of want to just start. The pandemic started, everything shut down. You weren't even here yet.
I was not. Yeah.
What was it like coming to a library that had already been kind of closed down for the pandemic and having to jump in as the new guy?
So I don't know that I would ever advocate a major career pivot during the middle of a global pandemic. But it worked out. It worked out largely because of the excellent team that manages and administrates the library. So like everything else, the library shut down basically in March. I joined almost exactly a year ago. I joined July 6th is my 1-year anniversary. And so a lot of the difficult decisions had already been made. So again, in some ways, although it was a rough transition, it was also made easier by the fact that the library had already kind of transitioned into kind of COVID mode. There are a number of individuals, maybe some of the Friends have worked with them, Debbie Saragusa and Carrie Coogan, Joel Jones, Crystal Ferris. The executive team was first rate. So my task was basically keep everything together as the library quickly pivoted from having all of our doors open to all of our doors shut, and then how could we make sure that we continue to serve the community during this most unusual year. Excellent.
So, yeah, agreed, wonderful team you have here, but you came to us from UMKC, and I would think that you had a lot of tools that you picked up from your experience there that I think you've been able to apply here. Would you share with us a little bit about your background and how you brought that to the library?
So yeah, I was 21 years in higher education. The last 17 were here in Kansas City. I was first a faculty member and then eventually an administrator at UMKC. I held several different administrative roles. And I think the big takeaway is a very straightforward one, a very easy one. I see libraries as educational institutions. So for me to step into this role and to continue to be an educator first and foremost was relatively straightforward. So we spend a lot of our time at UMKC trying to figure out how we can reach the community in new and interesting ways. How do we reach the students that don't often get access? So I think the typical UMKC student profile is pretty well known. UMKC serves a very large percentage of students that are either first generation, Pell Grant eligible, or some combination of both. So it's an overused cliche to be true. It's attributed to different people, but you've often heard talent is universal, but opportunity is not. And so a place like the university, which is just right down the road, specializes in doing that, but so too does the library. The library is a place that tries to figure out ways in which we could take all of our services, all of our programming, and reach those in the community that need us most.
Good. So I want to talk a little bit about, the library's been closed to the public, but it hasn't stopped serving the community. So I'd like to talk a little bit about how the library operated during the pandemic. And then we'll move later into what we're doing now, but just talk a bit about how we continued to serve the community during the closure.
So it didn't take very long for the library to take its massive portfolio of services and programs and to begin to offer those in either non-traditional or virtual ways. All of the community partnerships continued. So we maintain a list of 150 different community partnerships from around the city, around the metropolitan region. All those partnerships continue to exist. So our well-known relationship that we have with harvesters, for example, well, that continued. All the work that we put in helping school children make sure they got healthy meals, that continued as well. We picked up a lot of healthcare partnerships in the past year. So we partnered with Swope Health, for example, trying to make sure that access was solidified throughout the community. So if you think about the library not as a repository of books, but as a social service agency, or as a place that we interact with the community on a number of different levels, a lot of that activity just continued. So we continued to serve the school district. We continued to serve our patrons who were experiencing homelessness. We continued to be active in any kind of healthcare activity we could. This was a census year where the library became a key place for census activity. We helped our patrons register to vote. So all of these great big ball of activities that sort of make the library such a special place continued almost uninterrupted. Even more significant was taking all of our programs, our visiting lectures, all of the guests, all of the other, from story time to children's programming. How do we pivot that into an online or virtual world? That problem was solved pretty quickly. And so the regular slate of activities that makes the library sort of such an important part of this community pretty quickly just now was delivered in a different form.
Excellent. You talked about interacting with the community, and you and I had a conversation on a friend's happy hour late last year, and you used the phrase in describing the library as the community's living room. And I mean, we all ate that up. We thought it was wonderful because it resonated, I think, with a lot of us very strongly. But so the living room, it was tough to get in for the last year. So I'm kind of curious, we know what kind of impact I think that had on the community. And we've talked about how those resources were accessed in other ways, but I'm curious in terms of how that impacted the staff and everyone in this building, that they couldn't welcome people in the living room anymore. And I guess and as a follow on that, the excitement now that people are starting to come back.
Well, we can ask the staff in the back of the room how they felt about that. So yeah, let's start with the last part of that. So it is so very good to see people in our spaces again, right? There's a new energy back in the spaces. So every one of our buildings is open. There are people around. I was in the children's space of the Central Library this morning, and there were, kids on the floor wrestling around reading our books. So yes, it is so nice to have, the activity back again. I think it was not having that. It was a particular challenge, and I don't think it was easy. It wasn't easy for brand new people like me. It wasn't easy for people with a much deeper history in the library. Because, again, I don't want to sort of speak in cliches or in overly broad strokes, but the staff in this institution work for the Kansas City Public Library because they believe in the community. And almost every, I'll say this quietly, almost every member of the library could make more money doing something else, right? But they care about the institution, they care about the community, they care about service. And so it was a heavy burden, a heavy lift to figure out how they can continue that commitment, continue that investment in a very non-traditional way. But again, I just sat back and applauded at how well they managed that transition, how well and adept and strong they were at continuing to serve. And again, now that we're reopened, you can see the kind of, everybody's breathing a little bit easier. People are reaching out to me with new ideas like, hey, why don't we do X? How about we do this? How might we do that? So the library, I think, is sort of had this big, deep breath. Now we're exhaling and looking for new ways to innovate.
Yeah, I was just recently. I was in the kids' room at Central with my two kids, and the older one was loving running around the tree, and it was it's great to be back in it.
Yeah, we had there was a big tour group a couple days ago, a couple weeks ago, a week ago. Time has still not come back to normal after COVID. And they're all holding each other's hands and kind of marching through Central, and it was a great thing to see.
Absolutely. Wanted to circle back to some of the things that started during the pandemic and the library is carrying forward, the Internet to Go program. I wanted to talk a little bit about that. Just describe a little bit for the people watching what that is and how that's serving the community.
So this was something that I was a knowledgeable outsider, right? I knew of the library. I knew many of the social services that the library provided. But I think even me, somebody who was informed, didn't really understand the depth of the commitment or the depth of the investment that the library has in things like digital equity, digital inclusion. If you drove around our city after the shutdown, so March, April, none of the buildings were open, but our parking lots were full. And I'm a little thick. It took me a half a beat to figure out exactly what was going on. But of course, they were in the parking lots because they were using our Wi-Fi. So one of our first challenges was to make sure that access was available. So we did all we could to make sure that the patrons of our district, the citizens of this community, had access to the internet. One way we did that was to take every available resource we could find, whether it was federal CARES dollars, whether it was gift dollars, whether it was the fabulous support of the Friends to help us to do this, and we bought devices. Sometimes we bought hotspots, sometimes we bought laptops, sometimes we bought tablets, and then we just put them into our system. You could check them out as if you were checking out a book or a DVD, and you could get access. So the Internet to Go was almost exactly the way the program is titled. We were trying to make sure that our patrons had access to work, to school, whatever their social media needs, their internet needs, through the devices that the library could provide.
And at this point, I want to give a shout out to some of the people watching and our members, because the Friends during this were kind of struggling with, how do we support the library? Things aren't open, we can't go to the library. And so the board kind of latched on to this Internet to Go, and we reached out to, and we had a couple fundraisers and membership drives, and because of your generosity, Friends donated over $40,000 last year to the library for the Internet to Go program. And so, you referenced it, obviously buy more devices, but I guess, could you break that down a little more? What that means for the community when there's that extra money for those more devices?
So I'm pretty fortunate because a lot of the positive feedback comes to me. I get the emails from the parents, I get the emails from the teachers. I'm not so sure that kind of the contribution or the impact is widely known. So I've got anecdotal stories that are just filling up an inbox in my email, and they're largely stories about. So here's a stressed out parent, here's a stressed out teacher, here's a child that's struggling to learn, and then this made all the difference, right? This provided, this was the key. So we've all sort of seen the same headlines. Virtual education, even in a perfect environment, is far from ideal, especially in a K through 12 environment. It's a little bit easier for the students that I used to teach or the students that Larson teaches to be able to pivot to having a college class online or even a high school class online. For our youngest learners in the community, it's very, very difficult when they're struggling with all of the other issues that came along with the pandemic. And yet this, it's a little bit bigger than a CD. It's a little, not even as big as my folder here. Check that out. And with this comes access to homework help, school. It made all the difference because, again, we know that there is a huge learning loss this past year because of COVID. There's a learning loss in a perfect academic setting. Unfortunately, many of our citizens in the district are not being educated in a perfect academic setting. So for those students, for those pupils, the learning loss is even greater. Anything that we can do to help cover that gap is much appreciated. In the poorest districts, this is a nationwide statistic, not a Kansas City statistic, but it probably holds true. The most disadvantaged communities in an online environment have lost anywhere from 4, 6, potentially as much as 9 months of educational attainment. So when anything that we can do to make sure that those individuals, those children have access to the internet so that they can sort of keep up, then I think that's something that we should be very proud of.
Absolutely. I mean, in a very real way, those individuals most impacted by the pandemic in terms of the potential for loss of education, this was a sort of a life raft. It's not gonna make them whole. It's not gonna fix everything, but it's a reaching out to people in the community and making sure we do our best to not leave people behind.
Right, and I think what it's done is it's also started the next question, the bigger question, right? So tools are not gonna fix this, solve this. Like, yes, it's great that these patrons now have a hotspot, that they have a tablet, they have a device. The real issue at hand now is getting neighborhood broadband. Now that question probably wouldn't have been as advanced had this other work not happened. So we've got to solve neighborhood broadband if we're ever going to get equal opportunity. So I think that's the next big challenge for the library, is to say, what role are we going to play in digital equity and digital inclusion? Yes, it's great that we have built this foundation with the devices and internet to go and all the other support to get the actual hardware in people's hands. Now we need to go another step on top of that and figure out how we get broadband into the neighborhoods.
Well, I think I can safely say you've got a ready support group to help you in that endeavor.
Right on. That's a big question, but we're part of that conversation.
Excellent. Well, I also want to just talk to the exciting part. Like, we're opening back up. Let's talk a little bit about what people can expect to see, how things are going to kind of ease back into the normal.
Yeah. So as of June 1st, the library opened. We decided just to go open. Like, we weren't going to scale open. It's like, ta-da, we're open. Now, that's mostly true. So you can come into the libraries, you can browse, you can bring your kids in, you can bring your families in, you can do anything you want to do. It will probably be September before spaces like this have a live audience again. But we are going to continue to figure out that last piece. But yeah, we're very excited that it looks pretty normal, right? We're still requiring masks in our spaces, which might be a little bit unusual in the city, largely because we have a great number of 12 and under people that visit all of our buildings.
Right.
And until we either determine that threat is over, that danger is over, or that population is not going to be impacted by some of these other factors, we'll probably keep the mask mandate in place. But our computers, our research stations, it looks pretty normal. The plexiglass is still up where you check out some of your books, but for the most part, we're back to normal.
And so eventually we're going to start having events and programming here again. Talk a little bit about what people can expect to see in the fall, how things are going to,
So one of the things that I think made the Kansas City Library so unique was the fact that there were, so many signature public events each and every week. This has been something that my predecessor, Crosby Kemper, sort of made sure that the Kansas City Public Library was known for this incredible, dynamic.
Crosby is known for sitting down and doing this.
Right. Talking about Crosby. There's no question that Crosby and the director of public affairs before the current person, Carrie Coogan, Henry Fortunato.
Right.
I mean, it was an amazing legacy. Part of our my job, I guess, is to just not screw that up, right? So to continue to make sure that we are on the map, so to speak. So one thing that I think our patrons can easily look forward to is the continued, author tours, book tours, political events that continue to make the library stand out. But we also want to maybe shift it or change it up just a little bit so that we also put together some programming that has a lot of connective tissue. So as much as we all love to see the traveling Pulitzer Prize, author who's, in Kansas City for a day, I think we also want to think about ways in which we can use our public programming to really be really providing a value to the community. And what I mean by that is, what if say we had a 6-month period and we did maybe 3 events over that 6-month period that were thematically linked, and in between we had book groups or neighborhood discussions, maybe we brought in different partner groups. So the question we have to ask ourselves is how are we, the library, of value? How are we of service? How do we define that value? And so as much as it's great to sit in this room and have 300 people in communion, in fellowship with each other, how can we extend the life of those events? How can we figure out ways in which the impact of those events is understood more than just in terms of the number of visitors? So I think what I would like to make sure happens is that we look at ways to not just, we'll continue to do the fantastic events, the kind of isolated one-offs, but then how do we build in other events that address deep social needs, pressing political issues, important social concerns in our community?
Well, when a family sits down in their living room and has a conversation, it's great to have a special guest, but sometimes you talk about uncomfortable things that are challenges for you to address, and that the library seems like a perfect place to be tackling those conversations. I
think so too. I think a critic could say, be careful, the library shouldn't be political, or we should be apolitical. I hate to break it to you, it's always political. And we're not here to cause trouble. Right. We're not here to push an agenda, but we are here to help you grapple with difficult questions. And the library doesn't have all the answers. Ambiguity is literally everywhere, but that's okay too, because simple answers to complex problems leads to partisanship and divisiveness. If the library can be a tool or a platform or a venue in which this community can have sustained, lasting, and significant conversations, then I'll take that every day.
Absolutely. And, politics society, we're struggling, I think, as a society, as a community, to remember everything that keeps us together. And the library is a wonderful place where people can find common ground, can come together and share.
Yeah, I think so too. There were a couple weeks ago, the Nelson hosted a video conversation with Lonnie Bunch from the Smithsonian, which was a fabulous conversation between Lonnie Bunch and Julian Zugazagurria. And Bunch was asked, what does a good museum do? And we could ask the same thing, what does a good library do? But Dr. Bunch's answer was something like, he wants the museums that he works for to become a platform for possibility. He wants them to define reality, to give hope to the community. Like, these are active places. And I think that's what we'd like to do with the library. Again, we don't just open our doors and let patrons sort of come in and just, well, you can do that actually, but also this could be part of a curated experience where, you come to the library and you find yourself engaged in, meaningful social questions.
Very good. Well, I kind of want to conclude with just some thoughts on how people can engage with their library as part of that process. And what we should look to for the future. So the easiest way is to approach your neighborhood library, right? We have 10 branches plus a mobile division. It is my goal so that the people that work at these branches, the branch managers, the YFE, youth and family engagement staff,
like that they're understood to be part of that community. So that if you are a member of that community and you want to support the library, you want to support your neighborhood institution, your first stop is right there behind the reference desk at your institution. And I think we can sort of create these environments that are very local and very engaged, but also come to spaces like this, come to the beautiful spaces downtown. So it's not just a local neighborhood place, it's also a system in which the parts are greater than the sum of the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. Make sure we get that right. So I think one of the wonderful things that the library enables our patrons to do is they can engage on any particular level they want. If you want to be a drop-in, be here for 10 minutes and then just pick up some materials and go back to your life, you can do that. If you want to come into our spaces because it's warm in the winter or cool in the summer, you can do that. If you want to deeply engage questions that are important to you, you can come into our spaces and you can do that too. The branches are the places where we are going to reach out and connect with the community. And of course, since I'm talking to the Friends of the Library, if you want to connect with the library, connect with the Friends. We, the sort of leadership team in the library, want to do more with all of our affinity groups. The Friends, the Young Friends, a group called the Greenwood Society, so that we can find ways for, if you want X, we can deliver it. And we will be sort of co-creators on this journey, however you want to define the journey.
Well, and so you and we've talked about how some have described the library as, Kansas City's library, as a hidden gem, and how we don't want it to be hidden anymore. So what would you say to the people out there? They're like, oh yeah, the library is great, but they don't come in here. There's nothing for me at the library. I'm glad it's there for somebody else, but I don't need to show up.
Yeah, I've got a bunch of different answers that range from the profane to the just angry. Libraries are not intimidating, right? They're not exclusionary. Even a wonderful place, that we just mentioned, the Nelson, can at times feel a little formal or a little imposing. That doesn't happen in a library, right? A library welcomes all by design, by structure, by purpose. So to those who think they don't need the library, they probably have a narrow understanding of what the library does. And some of it's cliche, right? There's a double cliche working against the Kansas City Public Library. One, you've got this sort of Midwestern nice, I guess. I say this is, even though I've lived here a long time, I'm not a Midwesterner by birth. So there's like, yeah, it's the Midwest. We're really nice and we get along. And a librarian. So, I mean, it couldn't have, like, if you're an introvert, have I got a job for you? A Midwestern library. None of that is true, right? These spaces are specifically designed to be places of engagement, to be active. And so to those who may have a lesser informed vision of the library, I challenge them to come down to our spaces and see what happens. I would hope that they would be surprised. To those who support the narrative that the library is a hidden gem, I've made it crystal clear to you and to this group, I hate that. We can be the shiniest gem on earth. If anybody applauds, pats themselves on the back for being a hidden gem, I'm not a fan. Sometimes that means we have to be a little bit more, a word better than aggressive. I don't want to be aggressive, but I do want to be more public, because nothing comes to the meek. Nothing, So I think we should rightly claim our pride of place in the community, and I'm more than happy to lead that charge.
Well, the Friends will certainly do what we can to help that, and I'd encourage everyone at home, you got a neighbor or a friend that they don't engage with the library, or you just heard the director, get them to come down here, bring some people. This is everyone's library, and this is where the action's going to be, I think.
Matt will buy you a cup of coffee downtown.
Well, John, this is great. I really appreciate you joining us for the annual meeting and kind of updating everyone on what you've been up to. And it's really exciting to get back in here and be in the physical space.
Yeah, and I want to thank you too. I mean, it's not only a challenge for me, but obviously a challenge for you to continue to lead Friends during this COVID year. So I am more appreciative of you and Friends and all the other affinity groups than many of you know. It's been a great honor to see the dedication of those who support us.
Well, thank you, John. We really appreciate it.
All right, thank you, Matt.
Thank you. Well, everyone, that was pretty wonderful having John with us this evening. So now I'm just going to try and switch topics back to our annual meeting, kind of an update on what we've been up to. So, as you all know, the Friends, we're a dynamic, hardworking group. We love supporting and advocating and sharing our experiences that make the library unique. We support and promote the library's initiatives to grow and expand throughout our community. So during this pandemic, we didn't have our book sales or the programming that everybody was used to, but we did find other ways to serve the community during this past year. I referenced it, but in the past year, the Friends contributed over $40,000 to help the library purchase those mobile Wi-Fi hotspots for the Internet to Go program. In discussing it with the board, it's our hope that those will continue to close the gap in Kansas City's digital divide, and as John talked about, better connect our underserved communities throughout Kansas City. Helping Kansas City stay connected and stay online has led to better access to library programs and events, job hunting, reading, researching, schoolwork, and you all at home made that happen, so thank you. During this past year, we also continued in our role as a co-presenter of the Writers for Reader program. It's a program, if you're not familiar, it benefits a collaborative partnership between the Kansas City Public Library and UMKC's MFA program in creative writing. It enables a graduate student to teach writing classes here at the library and assist in planning for a new literary award and a citywide book festival. So, during the past year, we also continued to engage and educate the community through virtual events. Hopefully, some of you joined us on our happy hour hangouts. One of them was with John. Those were a lot of fun. Carla did most of those, if you're familiar, but those were pretty great. And we kind of just, had different conversations with some of the movers and shakers around Kansas City. It was a lot of fun. So on a down note, in supporting the library this year, we did experience a financial loss for the fiscal year. The Friends went down about $20,000, and that's okay. It's okay. It was an important use of the money, as we talked about, in supporting the library. And the Friends still have sufficient resources. We're not at risk. But it underscores the importance of the support from the community. The Friends were there to support our library and during a challenging year, and we'll be there in the future, but we want your help in doing that. The past year in particular made me a bit reflective on what libraries mean to me. So I kind of want to share with you some of my thoughts about the importance of the library. Whole lot's changed in my life in the last few years. When I started president, I had no kids. I have 2 kids now. Our national political dialogue frequently seems overwhelming, and sometimes it can feel like we're forgetting what we all have in common with each other and what brings us together. Crosby used to like to talk about libraries as the cornerstone of democracy, but I think they actually go a step further than that. Unlike a lot of other countries, America was not founded around a common ethnicity or a religion. This country was founded on an idea that everyone was equal and deserves equal opportunity. And while we've always struggled to achieve that idea, I can think of no place where that idea is stronger than in your library. A place where everyone is welcome to access information, share ideas, and better themselves. Your library isn't just the cornerstone of democracy. It is the core idea of America that lives in this building. And the library staff that you see every day, and you as supporters, you are the protectors of that idea. That is why the library is so important and worthy of your support. I'm thankful for the last 4 years that I've been president of the Friends. I hope I've done good service in safeguarding that idea. The Friends continue to need your support and your help as we support the library in providing a place that strives to realize that idea of America. So, get your friends, get your neighbors, bring them here like John said, get them to join the Friends, and strengthen a community that is for everyone and has something for everyone. Thank you. In part of that, one of the important things that's happening, we have several people that have served this board for many years that are leaving today, and I want to thank them. Madeline Walter, not only have you served the board for a long time, you served as our president for several years. You were instrumental in starting, I think, the rebirth of the Friends, and none of this would be here today in the state that it is without you. So thank you, and if you come up, we have something for you.
It's very kind.
Madeline, just thank you so much for everything you've
You're
done for the
very
Friends.
welcome, Matt. It was a pleasure to be on the board. Pleasure to turn the presidency over to you. And let other people fill in the space.
Thank you, Madeline. Katie Allison, she served as our vice president and was absolutely essential. I don't think I can ever possibly do this justice to the work in support of the passage of the levy in 2018. And I can't tell you, there was nothing more important that this board supported, that the library had accomplished. That was just so crucial to the library continuing to provide services to the community. And Katie, you made it happen. So thank you. Thank you so much. And we have something for you as well.
About 87%
Microphone.
of the vote of people in this community wanted to have the library levy pass. That was you all voting at the right time. Thank you. And I loved working with my friends who sit out there and what we've been able to accomplish. Thank you, Matt.
And lastly, Renee Franklin will also be leaving the board this year. She's been on the board for, I think it's since 2014, was that correct? And I can't tell you, the ideas Renee's come up with that have spurred new programs, new activities by the Friends. It's been marvelous. She's pushed us in a lot of directions, and I don't think we would be what we are without her probing and additional challenges to us. So thank you for making sure that we have fresh perspectives and fresh thoughts, and we've definitely needed your service on the board. So thank you, and we have something for you as well. Good.
Okay. I wanted to say that during this time of the pandemic, I've seen individuals who use the library that were very sad that they couldn't be here anymore. People said, I miss it. I miss not going. Well, now you don't have to miss it any longer. And so your friends, us and everybody else in the library, we're here for you. Please come back because we are a community. Thank you.
Thank you, Renee. And so, yeah, we've had a wonderful board, and some of the members that are leaving us have been absolutely instrumental to what the Friends are today, and we're indebted to their service. But now, exciting new beginnings. I want to introduce Ann Mackey, who's going to be our next president. So Ann, just a brief intro on Ann. So some of you may remember from a number of years back, we kind of had a bit of a minor crisis with the overwhelming generosity of the public in giving the Friends books. It was a challenge to actually just store and process all of the donations we were getting. And so we had to come up with a solution to how to deal with that. And Ann, as the chair of our book sorting and sales committee, implemented solutions to that. She has drained down that problem, that it's not a problem anymore. We can keep accepting your donations, and we can handle them, and it's that kind of problem solving and creativity that I think is going to make her wonderful as the next president of the Friends. So I want to welcome Ann Mackey, the new president of the Friends of the Library.
Don't go far. Okay, thank you. And thanks for everyone for joining us. Please continue to read the FOL newsletter for future updates and all that. I also would like to thank Madeline, Katie, and Renee for their service. They all helped me out a lot when I was, just starting on the board. And Matt did an incredible job as president, and I thought his speech about the importance of libraries was fantastic. And I'm going to read a few of the things that he oversaw in his service. First of all, contraband. We don't have that party anymore. The levy, that was a big one. I know Katie did a lot, but Matt oversaw the whole thing, and it was very successful. We reworked our bylaws. He created a conflict of interest policy, procured liability insurance. We oversaw the Writers for Readers program, which is a big one, and it's going to be ongoing. And hotspots during COVID, you heard everyone mention those. That was very beneficial. And creating our archival system on Google Drive. So I look forward to the next phase for Friends of the Library, and I look forward to working with all of you. And please encourage people to join Friends of the Library. And I have a gift for Matt. Matt's going to continue on the board, which I'm very grateful, because I'm probably going to have a lot of questions for him. So I think that's it. I'm going to introduce the new people, sorry. Okay. This is our new board. If you all want to come up kind of one by one. Okay, no one wants to be first. This is Dan Meeker. Kathleen Jackson, Carolyn May, and Dr. Larson Powell. So we thank them in advance for their service. Okay, I think that's it. So goodbye, thanks for tuning in, and please keep involved with Friends of the Library.
Brooks Fitzpatrick, and I love the library because I believe it's the great equalizer. Everyone has access to the same amazing resources, and everyone deserves that.
This is Ann Mackey. I love my Kansas City Library because of the programs they offer, such as lectures, book clubs, and computer classes.
Hi, my name's Lauren, and this is James, and we're here at the Northeast branch of the Kansas City Public Library, and we're friends of the library because it's fun, and it just keeps getting better.
Hi, my name's Jonathan Hill, and I love the Kansas City Public Library because it serves our community.
Hola, mi nombre es Alejandro Marval y me gustan las librerías públicas de Kansas City porque son un reflejo de la diversidad de nuestra comunidad.
Hi, my name is Barbara Veronka, and I love the Kansas City Public Library because they always have the next great book I need to read.
My name is Carla Deal, and I'm here at the Sugar Creek branch. I love our Kansas City Public Library because I love local history, and the Missouri Valley Special Collections Room in the Central Branch is one of the most magical places in the city.
Hi, I'm Matt Sterling, President of Public Libraries West, and I love it as something for everyone, and everyone is welcome.
Hi, I'm Carolyn, and I love the Kansas City Public Library because with my library card, I can read the New York Times online for free.
Hi, my name is Nick Kim, and I love the Kansas City Public Library because it provides to and lifts all parts of our city.
The Friends of the Kansas City Public Library are a group of passionate individuals who all come together to support our library, and we would love to have you. Please join the Friends at www.kclibraryfriends.org and follow us on social media.